Hello everyone, how's it going? And welcome to this very special Wild Rift video. In this video, we're going to be checking out Ambessa early on Wild Rift thanks to the Chinese PBE. Now you might be thinking, if you're on the Chinese PBE, how are you going to give everyone a rundown of Ambessa? Well, thanks to SkinSpotlights, I have the skill description in English for every single ability. Huge shout out to SkinSpotlights. I'm sure you all know who he is already, but if you don't, he does a bunch of skin spotlights for Wild Rift and also League of Legends, and he previews a bunch of in-game content that maybe not a lot of people know about. So if you haven't already, make sure you go subscribe to his channel. I will leave his link down below, but I'm really excited to show you all Ambessa early and get my hands on Ambessa herself. I've been looking at some of the League of Legends gameplay and some of the League of Legends abilities, which by the way, Wild Rift does have a little bit of differences the way Ambessa works on Wild Rift compared to League of Legends. But if this is the first time you're seeing Ambessa, Ambessa is this really cool skilled champion that is going to be played in either the Baron lane or the jungle. She's all about auto attacking between her abilities, which is kind of similar to Riven. She's very dashy, she dashes around, and she does huge massive AoE damage. Think of like Riven with Cassante, if you know who Cassante is on PC League of Legends, mixed in with a little bit of Vi as well, I would say, with her ultimate. But she's really fun to play. I've been testing her out a little bit on the Chinese PBE and giving her a try. Without further ado, I'll go through all the abilities. I'll tell you what build that I think will be very popular when it starts, and also I have a little surprise for you at the end of the video to give a test of Ambessa in the jungle. So first, let's take a look at the abilities. I'm going to show you the screenshots on screen. So the first one is going to be the passive, which is Drake Hound's Step. So you have the feint passive, which upon casting an ability, Ambessa dashes a short distance in the left joystick direction. Now in PC League, obviously you have a mouse and keyboard, so you can actually decide which way you go. But in Wild Rift, it depends on where your joystick is aiming. So if your joystick is aiming forwards, then you're going to be dashing forward. If it's going to be backwards, it's going to be going backwards. So every single time Ambessa's next attack when you use an ability within 4 seconds of triggering feint has increased range and also deals a bonus damage based on the target's maximum health, which means that Ambessa is going to be very good against these tanky champions, even bruisers as well, because the more of the target's maximum health there's going to be, the more damage you're going to be able to do. And this is also increased at levels 1, level 6, and also level 11. This could be stacked 3 times. So as you're going to see here, every single time that I use an ability, wherever I move my joystick after using the ability, if it's backwards, you can see it's dashing backwards. If it's forwards, it's going to dash forwards. Now, the dash always happens after the ability, which is really important to know. So every single time you use an ability, make sure that if you want to go away, you know, for example, you can use an ability and just dash away just like this. I mean, I do have the 0 cooldowns. But for example, if you're going to get ganked in lane, in the Baron lane, you can use your abilities and actually use it to escape instead. She's going to be one of the safest Baron lane champions to play. I don't think she's going to be gankable. I don't think there is a world where when you're playing as Ambessa, unless you have none of your abilities up, that you're going to get ganked. Because what you can do, just every single time you use an ability, you can just dash backwards towards the tower. And it's absolutely great. It's a great way of both engaging and also disengaging as well. Now, your stacks on your other part of your passive when you dash are just underneath here. You see here, this little icon next to Trinity Force. That's how many stacks you have. So you see, I can go up to 3 stacks. And then when I got 3 stacks, my next auto attacks are going to deal bonus damage and also have increased attack speed. You can see here, this is Ambessa's normal attack speed. And once you have the 3 stacks, this is the increased attack speed that you have. And also, as you can tell, all your auto attacks are going to be dealing bonus damage. So you can stack it a little bit like Riven, where you can use your abilities and stack up your passive. But it's very similar to Riven, where every single time you use an ability, you want to make sure you auto attack. So you're actually getting full use and full benefits from your passive. So that's a really big thing with Ambessa. With her passive, again, she's going to be super mobile with a crazy amount of dashes that she is going to be able to have. So next up is her first ability, which is Cunning Sweep. So you have 2 parts of this ability. The first part is where Ambessa swings her twin Drake Hounds in a semicircle in front of her, dealing physical damage, and the damage is increased for enemies hit on the outer edge. Very similar to Camille's second ability, where the outer edge is going to be dealing bonus damage. However, with Camille, she also heals, but with Ambessa, you won't be healing. You'll just be dealing bonus damage with the outer edge on the first ability. And if Cannon Sweep hits a target, after a brief delay, it transforms into Sundering Slam for 3.5 seconds. So it's not going to be transformed for the rest of the game or for until you use the ability. You do have a period of time where you have to actually use this ability. And the Sundering Slam is it cleaves an enemy's inner line, dealing physical damage to the first target hit. And this is based on their missing health. Now, in PC League of Legends, both of these are kind of based on the target's maximum health, but in Wild Rift, this is based on the target's missing health. So that second part of your first ability is going to be quite important to try and save for the end of the fight. So you can try and use your first part of your ability, use your other abilities like your second ability and your third ability and your auto attacks, and then try and use your last part of your first ability right at the end. And you can see right at the bottom as well, deals 120% damage to monsters in the jungle, which means that Ambessa jungle might actually be a thing in Wild Rift, which I am really excited about. Like I said, I'm going to go into a little bit more details with Ambessa right at the end. So we're going to be checking out this ability now. So you can see here that this is going to be in a semicircle. You can see that you have two semicircles. You have the inner semicircle and the outer semicircle. As I mentioned, the outer semicircle is going to be dealing the extra damage. You can see every single time. And I'll wait for it to cool down. And then the inner circle, you can see, is not going to do as much damage. You can tell the difference there. From 105 to 181 damage. So 80 damage is still quite a big difference, to be fair, considering on which one you actually want. Now, as you can see, when you use your first ability and it hits an enemy, if you don't hit an enemy, you can see it's just going to go on to cooldown. So you can just use your first ability again. But if you hit an enemy, it turns into the slamming part, which, as you can see there, that is the slamming part. Now, the slamming part is actually going to be really good for being able to clear waves as well, because you can just use this in a line and clear the whole minion wave. But again, the big thing with your first ability, the second part of it, is it's always going to deal bonus damage to the first enemy hit. So even if you hit multiple enemies like this, it's always going to be the first enemy. Again, you can see the number difference, 215 to 134. So make sure that it doesn't get blocked by any minions or anything like that. Make sure that when you're using your first ability, maybe to cleave the enemy champion, you dash to the side and then you use the second part of your first ability. So then you're kind of away from the minions and you're trying to focus on the champion itself. But as I mentioned, you can also do a way of where you're using your first ability, you're using your other abilities, which gives you easy access to the back line to guarantee that you're going to be dealing the extra damage with your first ability, which again is going to be pretty important. And also enemies will get slowed as well, which is also pretty nice. Onto the W now, the second ability. This is going to be where she kind of puts herself in a showdown, where she gets herself a shield, and that shield will absorb a bit of damage, and it also builds up energy for just under a second, which will probably be increased per level. And before unleashing a shockwave, she also deals magic damage as well. And if the shield absorbs damage from nearby enemies, from large monsters, so blue buff, red buff, Baron, and Rift Herald, for example, or enemy turrets, the shockwave will instead deal increased damage. So it depends on what you actually do, but you can see here that if I want to do a little bit of extra damage with the shockwave, I'm going to be able to do that with my second ability once it hits the tower. So you can see again, thanks to your passive, that when you use your second ability, you can either slam into the ground right in front of you. That's if you don't move. If you don't move at all, you just slam into the ground right in front of you. But if you move, the movement actually happens before you slam into the ground. This is the only ability where the ability itself is going to happen after you actually use your dash, whereas everything else is ability then dash, ability then dash. Your second ability is a dash into the slam into the ground. So it means that you can build up energy. And again, if you're taking damage from champions, from large monsters or anything else, then you're going to be dealing increased damage as well. The big thing is being able to build up energy, which is such a huge thing. And, you know, speaking of building up energy as well, I forgot to mention, but her passive can also restore energy. So if you're using a lot of your energy, then your passive with your auto attacks here are also going to be restoring energy. You can't see at the moment because I have 0 CD. But if I just use abilities real quick, you can see here, and if I don't auto attack, you can see that my energy will also be increased. You can see after 2 auto attacks, my energy is fully increased. So again, that's really important as to why you want to use ability auto attack, and then make sure that you use your other abilities on top of that as well, so that you can get the full energy stacks the whole time, and that will give you enough energy to be able to, you know, use your ultimate and everything else. So that is really important to make sure that, again, you auto attack in between your abilities, which is something I briefly forgot to mention. But yeah, your second ability is kind of your defense stance. It doesn't really do too much. It does magic damage, so not going to do a crazy amount. Again, it's more to do with gaining a shield when you're about to take a huge amount of damage. Your third ability is going to be like this AoE cleave effect, and it can actually be triggered twice if you're able to dash. So you swing your twin guards, twin Drake hounds, I keep saying twin guards for some reason because Amarant twin guard, around herself, dealing 40 physical damage and slowing enemies hit by 45% for 1.5 seconds. And when Drake Hound Step, which is her passive, is triggered after casting her third ability, Ambessa will cast her third ability again. So if I cast my third ability normally, if I don't dash, you can see there that I'm just going to cast my third ability, and that is it. However, if I use my third ability and then I dash, you can see that it costs 2 times. Let me take off the cooldown. So you can see dash into dash, dash into dash. The big thing is that you don't need to tap your second ability, your third ability twice. You just tap it once and it's just going to trigger twice, just like that. That's exactly what you can see there. And then obviously you can mix in your auto attacks and everything as well. So that is also a big thing. Also, if you're wondering why I have an armor thing here, it's because I have the item Black Cleaver. Yeah, I have full build for some reason. I don't know why I have full build, but that's why Black Cleaver is doing all this shredding in terms of the armor and everything. But yeah, third ability, just going to be able to dash. Again, it's more to do with AoE damage. So if you are out of range, you obviously don't want to start with your third ability. You can use your second ability to dash forward, and then use your third ability and use all your dashes again to try and get all the way into the back line. And Ambessa is going to have so many ways of getting into the back line and so many ways of getting to the AD carry. So as you know, as an AD carry main myself, I am dreading Ambessa. And there's another way that she can get right into the back line as well, and that is her ultimate. Now, the big difference between PC League of Legends Ambessa and Wild Rift Ambessa is that Ambessa in League of Legends passively gets armor penetration. In League of Legends, in Wild Rift, that is not the case. You are not going to get passive armor penetration throughout the game. Instead, her ultimate's passive is something new. So Ambessa's champion takedowns within 3 seconds of dealing damage to them restore her energy to full. Also heal herself depending on how much bonus attack damage she gets. The healing amount is based also on her missing health, which is crazy. I mean, imagine like Katarina passive in a way. It's not going to reset your ability cooldowns, but to be fair, all your ability cooldowns are quite low anyway. But your healing, which is going to be insane to stay into team fights, and also is going to be insane on top of items like Death Stance, but also it's going to be able to oh wait, sorry, it actually also I'm stupid, I completely forgot, but it does also reset all her basic ability cooldowns. So she basically has Katarina's passive. I completely forgot to read the last part. This just means that, you know, I haven't even read it really myself. This is my first time kind of experiencing Ambessa itself. Maybe I should read it all. So yeah, let's backtrack. Let's go back to her ultimate. So her ultimate, Ambessa's champion takedown within 3 seconds of damaging them will restore her energy to full, will heal her as well based on her missing health, and also reset her basic ability cooldowns. This is such a big thing for Wild Rift to just be able to get the resets. This is going to be very similar to Katarina. With Katarina, every single time you get a takedown, you're able to get your abilities reset. And that is going to be the exact same with Ambessa as well. So think about it. You jump into a team fight with all your abilities, and then you use your ultimate, get into the backline, you kill them, and then you have your abilities again. You can keep dashing and dashing over and over again. And the healing is going to be so good with Death Stance on top of that to get even more extra healing. So it's going to be absolutely crazy. And then you have the active part, which seizes the enemy champion with the lowest health percentage in a line in front of her and blinks to their location. It suppresses them unstoppably, so you'll be unstoppable, so you won't be able to get hit by any crowd control or anything for 1 second. And suppressing means that they can't use flash or dashes or anything like that. She then slams the target into the ground, dealing physical damage based on the target's missing health. And if you don't hit your ultimate, then it's going to be reduced by 50%. I thought that this would be like a point and click skill in Wild Rift, because there's a lot of abilities similar to this that used to be based on skill, I guess you can say, based on where you actually aim your ultimate, and then it got changed to point and click. You have to actually aim onto a champion and then lock onto them. So I'm surprised that they're actually making this into a skill shot. Now, I'm not too sure how the lowest health percentage works, because I gave this a try and I thought to myself, does that mean that you never dash to the furthest champion? Because on PC League of Legends, you always dash to the furthest champion. It doesn't matter what you do, but you're always going to dash to the furthest champion. But on this, it says the lowest health percentage. So what if I do this? Is it still, yeah, it's still going to dash all the way into the backline, which is really weird, because I thought that it would dash not all the way to the backline, but it would dash to the lowest health percentage, as it says in the description. So I'm not too sure if there's maybe a problem with the skill description. I'm not too sure. Again, this is PBE, so we're not too sure. But basically what happens is, if you have a line of champions, say you have a Hecarim in front, you have a Viego behind, and then you have an AD carry at the back, as long as you aim your ultimate in the right place, you can go all the way to the back line and slam them into the ground, and then you have easy access to the backline carry. And using your ultimate and slamming them into the ground will actually give you the range to use your first ability, and that means they will always be on the outer part of your first ability. So when I use my ultimate, you can see here they're already on the outer part of my first ability. So you could do a really insane combo of using your ultimate straight into your first ability straight afterwards and do a ton of damage. And again, if they're isolated, then you can do the target's maximum health damage with also your first ability. So I wanted to give this a try anyway, so I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to try and do a full combo with Ambessa, or try and do the highest damage output possible with like the ultimate and also the outer edge of the first ability. So you can go to ultimate, into first ability, second ability, also making sure that you use your third ability as well. I mean, that wasn't too bad. That was a decent amount of damage. That was like 4,500 damage, about 4,000 damage. That's pretty good for a full combo. And you have to remember, these dummies have 100 armor and 100 magic resist as well. So we can do that again and see what we can do here. Into second ability, first part of the second ability, and then do that. 3,500 damage. We also had an auto attack on top of that as well. I think making sure that you use your third ability right at the start is actually going to be really important, because your third ability can get reset very, very quickly. So I think it's actually first ability into third ability, and then use the second part of the third ability, maybe. I'm not actually too sure. We'll have to kind of test out the combos and see what they're like. But I think in general, it's going to be your ultimate into your first ability, and then your third ability to try and get the reset as soon as possible. And then you can do your full combo into your first ability. Yeah, that was a lot better. So you use your ultimate first. After you ultimate, then you use the first part of your first ability straight away to hit them on the outer edge, so you do the extra damage. You then use your third ability, which is going to activate twice, then your second ability, and then you finish off with the last part of your first ability. And if you do this quick enough, as you can see, you will do this whole combo with all her abilities within 3.5 seconds. That is disgusting. But in general, Ambessa is going to be really cool based on like how you actually use our combos and where you decide to dash and everything else as well. Because you can see you have so many dashes. Every single time that you use an ability, you are going to be getting a dash. She has backline access. She has reset mechanics with her ultimate. Like overall, Ambessa is going to be absolutely crazy. So let's, I mean, we can take a look briefly as well as like the abilities. It might be kind of hard to see. Oh my God, I'm reading all of this now. I might not read it. There are so many numbers here and I don't actually understand what any of that means. Some of this is going to be, so the first ability is probably going to be to do with the first part and the second part, but there's so many per level stats that is absolutely crazy. The second ability is obviously probably going to increase the shield, reduce the cooldown, as you can see there, and maybe also increase the damage, which is also going to be pretty big. Actually, you know what I just realized? I think the second ability is going to scale off attack damage. It actually looks like the second ability is scaling off attack damage instead of ability power, which is actually pretty big. So she has no magic damage in her kit at all now, basically. She has no magic damage in her kit. That is pretty damn crazy. I didn't actually see that. I haven't read the Chinese descriptions yet because I had the English version. So I was like, okay, that's fair enough. It looks like her second ability is actually based on attack damage. But then it has magic damage at the top. Okay, I'm not too sure. This is PBE, so everything is a bit weird as well at the same time. But most likely, you're going to max her first ability first, then her third ability, and then her second ability. That's most likely what you're going to do. Let's take a look and see what the build is going to look like. There is a build already on the PBE, which will probably be the same as the global build. I think there might be a few different builds with Ambessa. In general, there are just really strong items in Wild Rift which are going to be really strong for her. Like Trinity Force, for example, is going to be very strong for her. Black Cleaver can also be really good to reduce the armor. If you don't go Black Cleaver, you can also go for Mortal Reminder, which is very popular even on bruisers, just because you have the anti-heal and everything else. If I can even find Mortal Reminder, which I cannot find for some reason. Oh, there it is. So you can have Mortal Reminder. So I think her build is probably going to be something like Trinity Force into maybe Death Stance, Steric's Gauge, something like this. Then maybe you have Mortal Reminder. And to be fair, you can probably fit in Black Cleaver in this build as well. There is a way you can fit in Black Cleaver if you don't want Guardian Angel. Probably build is something like this maybe. You leave Mortal Reminder till last. Could be something like this. Other items which I think could be really good on Ambessa. Is going to be Sundered Sky as well, because you're going to be auto attack in between your abilities, so that extra damage from Sundered Sky is going to be big. There is a possibility that crit Ambessa could be a thing. And you know how Viego was incredibly strong with crit because he just kept using abilities over and over again? It could be something like this. Now let me cook for a second. It could be something like this. This could low-key be a build. I mean, I think Ghostblade in general, if you're playing in the jungle, is going to be very powerful. But things like maybe Collector to guarantee the kill into Solari Chargeblade, which if you don't know with Solari Chargeblade, every single time you use an ability, you auto-attack afterwards. You have Bloodthirster for the healing. You have Infinity Edge for the extra crit damage. This could be a possibility. In terms of the runes, Conqueror is a no-brainer. I mean, there's no other rune that you really want to go for this champion. Conqueror is going to be the best. You can stack it so quickly with all of your dashes. I cannot think of another rune that you're going to go. I think Resolve Tree is definitely going to be the best. Obviously, she's a melee champion, so you get double the value from Second Wind. You can also go for Nullifying Orb to keep you healthy, and also Overgrowth, which will stack throughout the game. You can also go for Perseverance if you also want to go that way, with being able to get the extra damage from the... the extra crowd control resistance from... Perseverance. Then you also have Brutal, because again, kind of like Riven, where you want to auto attack in between your abilities. So again, Brutal is going to be pretty good. I think in terms of jungle, you're going to stick with Conqueror. You might go to the Precision Tree and go for something like Gathering Storm into Coup de Grace, and maybe into, could be more attack speed, could also be more healing as well. That could also be a way with Overgrowth. This is probably going to be the jungle way that you go. Now, one last thing I wanted to try before I end this video is I'm going to go into a game and I'm going to test out her jungle clear. I'm going to test out her jungle clear. I'm going to test out the 120% bonus damage that you get from your first ability, and see how quickly we can clear through the jungle, and see if this could be a possibility when Ambessa comes out in a few weeks time. But yeah, let me know what you think down in the comments anyway for Ambessa. Again, as I mentioned, I think she's going to be really fun. It's so hyped to actually have a champion release on Wild Rift and League of Legends at the same time. I think it's going to be incredible with the way she's going to work, with how she's going to build and everything as well. And it's going to open up, I think, so many possibilities and so many high skill capped players as well. Because I think that this champion, even though it might seem quite easy that you have to dash in between using your abilities, there is a skill cap to it. Knowing when to dash, knowing when to use what ability at what time. Do I need the shielding? Do I need the AoE damage? Am I in range to use the AoE damage? Do I want to use my ultimate to get onto the back line, or am I going to get one shot? But let's act like we're about to start the game in the jungle. Let's act like we're about to start a game with jungle. We're of course going to start longsword, and we're going to give this a try. We're going to wait until the 45-50 second mark. Of course, you're going to want to start the blue side, the red side. Sorry, that's always the best way that you're going to go. So your second ability is actually going to do quite a lot of damage then. It looks like 66 base damage off your second ability. But then your third ability can cost twice and do 45 damage each time. So I think it's going to be your first ability, which you're going to make sure that you're obviously on the outer edge of these to make sure that you do the extra damage. Already, I'm seeing how much crazy damage you can deal. I'm making sure that you use your first ability on the outer edge to deal the extra damage. And then I can use my first ability and dash quicker to the red buff, which is quite nice. My auto attacks are also going to be doing the extra little bit of damage as well, which is quite nice. And then we're probably going to use our third ability as well to get the double slashes, which is going to allow us to do more damage. Again, making sure we hit the red buff on the outer edge. We get the empowered auto attacks as well. It's not looking too bad, to be honest with you. I didn't think Ambessa jungle would be a thing that I would be talking about in this video. I'll be totally honest with you. I did not think it would be a thing that I'd be talking about. There you go. Not too bad to start things off. We're at 1 minute 10 seconds. I probably could have done this maybe a little bit quicker. It's probably a better way to do this. But look, I mean, look how quickly she clears through this. This is crazy. Okay, my jungle clear is not going to be big now because I took away the sweeper. We're at 125, which is kind of standard for a jungler. And I feel like her ganking potential would be absolutely insane as well. Probably not the best way. And again, we're getting our energy back as well, thanks to the auto attacks from our passive, which is again pretty nice. And we can clear through the scuttle crab, get the extra damage again. This doesn't actually feel that bad. And then what we can do is, if we want to go in for a gank, which I mean, level 5 is going to be difficult to pull off. But probably the best way to do it is like gank with your second ability first. Okay, that got knocked away straight away. Oh my, oh my, it's 80 carries nightmare. And look, and then we have the reset with our abilities. And then we can use all our abilities again. That is absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. I mean, I never thought that this would be the case, to be fair. But yeah, Ambessa on Wild Rift is going to be released in about 2 to 3 weeks time. As I mentioned, I'm very excited to give her a try, actually in a game itself, to give her a try. The problem with Chinese PvE is there's like some sort of ping delays. If you want to see me play a full game of Ambessa jungle, it's going to be on high ping. Let me know down in the comments. And again, as I mentioned, let me know your thoughts of Ambessa and what you're excited about coming into the new patch. So hopefully you enjoyed this little preview of Ambessa. If you want to know more information, let me know down in the comments. Till next time, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.